Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. I am doing another one of these live stream style video in which I do a complete walk around of the car, and I'm not going to stop talking. So basically it's non-edited, straight from my brain to you in terms of what I think of this Mercedes-Benz EQS. So I call this a walk around video pattern after something that we used to do in engineering, in which we all get together around the car and over coffee or drink, we talk about the vehicle for a few hours. So this won't be for a few hours, of course, but let me show you the EQS and tell you what I like or don't like about this vehicle. Because for the first time, actually, I'm quite impressed with this new EQS. Now, you have to remember that Mercedes has a long history because Mercedes-Benz takes the credit for being the first automobile manufacturer, well, specifically Carlos-Benz, when more than 100 years ago they came up with an internal combustion engine for the first time. And since then, the world has changed. Now we have so many different things going on with the auto industry, and specifically, of course, the trend is toward electric vehicles, and that's why we have a whole transition plan from Mercedes to go from ICE, which is internal combustion engine, to EV or BEV for battery electric vehicle. And this is the flagship of such a transition because this is the EQS, which is basically the S-Class version of their EV strategy. And for about the same price, you can buy the EQS with its huge range and amazing amount of performance in comparison to the a traditional Mercedes-Benz S-Class, which I did a review as well a little while back. And to be honest with you, if you compare this side by side with Mercedes S-Class, even though I actually love V8 engines and internal combustion engine vehicles, I gotta admit, this thing is absolutely amazing. It's quiet, it performs in all aspects better than the S-Class. So why would you buy the Mercedes S-Class instead of this one? So this is lots of interesting, intricate patterns, even a small Mercedes-Benz logo embedded in the headlight and the front part. You know what, when it comes to details, I gotta admit, these guys know what they're doing in terms of design and engineering. And compared to other German manufacturers like a BMW or Audi, the Mercedes-Benz does a better job of creating something more unique and something that it gets to my heart and as an engineer because they have so much technology built in. Now, in terms of the overall quality of this, well, what do you expect from a $150,000 car? Nothing but the best, they say. And sure enough, the paint job is fantastic. Almost zero orange peel. It's flat. The paint is very uniform and probably one of the best paint jobs I've seen from German manufacturers, because not all of them are good at paint jobs. But interesting enough, in terms of the body alignment and body gaps here, they have a different design because normally the hood cuts off here, right? But this goes all the way to the fender here, exactly where the seam is, because it's just a short panel here. But the alignment is perfect, and as you go through here, the door front to back, the door alignment is excellent. The gaps are all about 4 to 4.5 millimeters. I measured a little bit earlier, except for maybe this part, the rear door to rear fender. The gap is a little bit wider, about 5 millimeters, so it could be better. But this is a huge door, right, to give you as much space as possible in the rear, because obviously this is designed to be driven as a sort of chauffeur car. By the way, this little door here is designed to fill in windshield washer, apparently. So kind of interesting way to do that, maybe over-engineered a bit. Going back to the rear of the car, again, really good panel alignment and paint job, I gotta say, is one of the best I've seen. Maybe even better than some of the more expensive cars in the Rolls-Royce Bentley range. This is fantastic paint job, beautiful, beautiful design. And also the EQS is not a sedan. It kind of shaped like a sedan, but it's a liftback or hatchback or 5-door sportback, however you want to call it. This thing whole lifts up over here. So I'll show you that in a minute. And so what you get is a little bit of sacrifice in the headroom in the back because it's sloping hood, but you get a huge trunk that is almost as eco as an SUV. I mean, granted, these days you can buy an SUV with a sloping hood line. This is basically the same idea. It doesn't set high in terms of the vehicles, but you get a huge cargo capacity and also very usable cargo capacity. So I actually really like this design, better than a 4-door sedan. It makes sense. It's still very secure in terms of the security system in here. So let's keep on going here in the back end. I will say that design, it's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit, not outdated, but conservative, I guess. I would like to see a little bit more of a trendier style. I know this is catered toward a traditional conservative S-Class buyers, but the whole design, it looks a little bit odd to me, I think. And, otherwise, you know, the wheels are very intricate. I can't imagine trying to wash that wheels. It looks great, but lots of pattern. And that's the design theme of this EQS. When I take you into inside, I'll show you as well. Many, many intricate patterns that is probably a nightmare for engineers to design and to create and to produce, but it looks beautiful in terms of the aesthetic side of things. These door handles are flush when it's locked, and then when you open it, they pop out. And so it's a little bit different approach to, let's say, a Tesla or Porsche, but it's more practical because you get a big door handle you can pull, but the doors are heavy, and this is a bit, you know, it requires a bit of effort to open and close, but you get that solid thump that you will not get in many, many vehicles. So I really love about that. Otherwise, back to the front design here, very aerodynamic. In fact, the drag coefficient of this EQS is supposed to be one of the best in the world. Better than almost any other vehicles out there, and you can tell because it's very slippery in terms of design, almost like an egg shape. And once again, do you like the front end or not? You guys let me know in the comments. It looks a little bit bulky and awkward for me, but the overall shape is quite nice. But the most important thing is the driving of this vehicle, which I'll get into a second, as well as the interior design, which is absolutely impressive. Let's take a look inside and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so we're now inside the 2022 EQS, and let me give you some spec before I forget. So let me take my cheat sheet here. Yeah, so this one has 516 horsepower and 631 pound-foot of torque, which is a tremendous amount of power and torque. That's good for 0 to 60 of just over 4 seconds. In the US, you can get a rear-wheel drive version that has 329 horsepower and 350 miles range. But here in Canada, only the all-wheel drive versions is available, which gives you 547 kilometer or 340 miles of range because of 2 motors. That's because of the 107.8 kilowatt battery. So it's actually a pretty big battery, lots of power and torque, and a really good range, right? Almost 600 kilometers of range, so it's amazing. Not only that, with a 240 volt charger, you can charge in 11 hours to a fully charged state. And if you have a DC charger, then actually it just takes about 30 minutes to charge to 80% from 10%. So that's pretty well standard actually. That's similar to what you see with other competitors, which includes a Porsche Taycan and nowadays Lucid Air. They're coming strong with their flagship models, and they're competing directly with something like this. But with Mercedes, you've got the brand recognition, the reputation, and as I mentioned, more than 100 years of making cars. So what can I say? I think they know what they're doing. And of all the different brands and manufacturers out there beside Toyota and Lexus, in terms of engineering side of things, I think Mercedes-Benz does the best job in creating the best technology and making sure that it works and it's practical. So here we have this amazing interior, which is definitely the best part of this vehicle. It's an instant wow factor as you walk in. It looks connected, but actually it's 3 separate panels. It's a 12.3 inches panel, 17.7 and 12.3 inches. It's a bit of overkill, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. So if I went into, let's say, navigation mode, I can zoom out, and if you go into more busy area like downtown, you actually see 3-dimensional buildings. That's the new pattern these days for the new Western navigation, and honestly it almost makes you kind of a car sick looking at this because the panel is so big and so realistic. But this is the most impressive portion, the center part of the infotainment system. Very quick to move around, very simple to operate, and it's your typical Mercedes infotainment system with all the apps, and you can control almost everything, and lots of live information as well. So this is impressive, but you also get the 12.3 inches panel here. And on the passenger side, this is your digital infotainment system, your classic fully digital electric instrumentation, so you can customize this to a large degree, but bright, easy to read, and sure, it doesn't look like a real analog gauges, but to be honest, it's actually very legible. And then on the passenger side, this is basically equivalent of the center console. It's almost just a simple replication of it. So passenger can also change the music and change some of the comfort settings, that kind of stuff. I think this is the trend for flagship models. That's why they added a third one. I really don't think you need this one when you have this large version in the center. Well, let's take a look what else you can do in here. You can play around with so many different things with the full digital assistance for everything from a safety system to light control. You can adjust the interior lighting. You can't see that right now, it's obviously during the day, but you can do all kinds of ambient lighting, and it's almost infinite amount of ambient lighting, so all these different colors you can pick. Brightness, you can have effects. And so it's pretty massage functions that has to be there for a car like this. So yeah, lots of things you can play with. I'm not going to show you everything in here, but it's pretty cool. You can turn the car around and play with it. I'm sure kids can spend hours playing with this. It's almost having like a digital game console here. Otherwise, the rest of the car in terms of quality, like when I do my normal punch test, it feels a little bit loose around here, to be honest. I didn't hear any squeaks or rattles anywhere as I'm driving, but I'm surprised this panel here feels a little bit loose. But again, no squeaks on the road. Beautiful piece of wood here. This is what I love about Mercedes. They are good at mixing technology and future design with the traditional materials. So this looks like it's like super expensive handcrafted custom woodwork. 2 cup holders built in here, as well as lots of space in the center console here. Also, you can play with the driving mode. I don't feel a huge difference when you change the driving mode, but overall the driving is very comfortable, very serene, quiet, silky smooth. But let me get into that a little bit more once I start moving the car. Seats in the front is very comfortable. You even get this kind of like almost a pillow design, which you see in the Mercedes S-Class, and beautiful pattern on the seat. And I don't know how you keep this white leather clean, but it looks fantastic. Let's hop into the back seat and we take it for a drive. So we're now in the back of the EQS, which is the most important part of the vehicle because this is where people are supposed to spend time. Huge amount of space, lots of legroom. I'm not a tall person by any means, but of course, plenty of space for all the passengers. They cleverly designed the seat to give you maximum amount of legroom, and the stitching and the quality of the design is beautiful, to say the least. The stitching is perfect. I love this two-tone color, even the floating design of the panel here. And you get the beautiful grille for the Burmester stereo, which by the way is fantastic. And you once again get this piece of wood, which is just a work of art. However, there are some issues here. Nothing to do with amount of space or the huge panoramic moonroof, but more to do with the seating space. For some reason, this seat is very vertical in comparison to, let's say, an S-Class. And therefore, you kind of stand very vertical like this because you can't really recline. In fact, there's no adjustment to make this seat back recline a little bit more. So you feel like you're kind of quite vertical, and also the back of the seating is quite firm. It's probably ergonomically correct, and maybe in a long distance drive, maybe the firmer padding is better for you. But it seems a little bit too firm for me. I think other people have complained about this as well. But the most annoying part is the fact that this is just too vertical for a passenger, and it feels a little bit awkward. The door is also very heavy to open and close, so I don't know. It's not electric doors, so it's a bit awkward to open, and then when you close it, you need a fair amount of effort. So I don't know. Those are maybe things that they need to adjust because this is a brand new model, and perhaps there are some other engineering minor changes they have to make to make it a little bit more friendly and practical for rear passenger. Otherwise, headroom space, even with my hat on, is excellent. And once again, in terms of the design of the interior, I don't think there's anything out there that's as beautiful as this EQS. So now I'm driving the EQS, and this is perhaps one of the more pleasant surprises, because when I drove the Mercedes S-Class, I wasn't very happy with the way it felt on the road. It was just too loose. Yes, comfortable and soft, but the steering was so numb. There was really had no feeling whatsoever in terms of the road feel. But the EQS is quite a bit better. I would say it's 30 to 40% better than the S-Class in terms of providing that proper feedback from the road into my hands. And even the steering feels a little bit more accurate. It does have a rear steering feel also, by the way. So the whole thing feels much more precise. It's more agile. It seems to be flatter around the corner. Sometimes that is due to the fact that there's a heavy batteries on the bottom of the car, and that provides stability, because obviously that means center of gravity is also very low. But the overall feel is quite good. It's definitely not a sporty sedan, but it does drive sportier, and it's more fun to drive than the Mercedes S-Class. If you had a choice between the S-Class and this one to drive for the long drive somewhere, this one is definitely more pleasant to drive. Also, taking this car around windy road and twisty curves, the EQS definitely corners better than the S-Class. Once again, I think they tuned the suspension differently in this one. So overall, I'm happy with the driving feel, because this is supposed to be a flagship luxury car. But if you compare it to something like a Porsche Taycan, it's clearly not as fun to drive. The Taycan is sporty, it's firm, and that thing is the real joy to drive. And if you love Porsche and you love all things to do with a Porsche, you're going to buy something like that over this one. But this one is targeted at a different clientele and different customer. Once again, because most people are going to be spending time in the back seat to be driven around by a chauffeur or driver, as opposed to being the driver. But if you're the type of person who wants to buy this because you love flagship Mercedes car and you want a full electric vehicle, and you still want some practicality associated with having a 5-door liftback, then this is an excellent choice. It's not going to be super fun to drive, but it's smooth, comfortable, extremely refined, and just very quiet. So for passengers and whoever sits in the back, they're going to love being in this EQS. Also, in terms of acceleration, this thing goes from 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds. So it's almost as fast or even faster than many sports cars out there. It does that with absolute quietness and smoothness. So the acceleration is amazing. Just step on it and this thing just takes off. At the end of the day, as I summarize my feel with the EQS, it starts at 144,000 Canadian, or about $120,000 US. So it isn't cheap by any means, and therefore it's not for everyone. But if you're looking for a flagship super sedan that gives you total comfort and also give you a reasonable amount of driving character, and you still get practicality of a 5-door liftback, well, there's not too many competitions out there anymore. My biggest complaint is the rear seat not being super comfortable, and also a little bit too upright in terms of the sitting position. And perhaps the driving character can be improved if they want to compete with the likes of Porsche Taycan. I love the engineering and the interior design, but there are some shortcomings that needs to be addressed in the future. Perhaps in the next facelift, they can make some improvements and modifications. And if they can do that, this will be as close to a perfection in terms of a full-size luxury electric vehicle. With other manufacturers like Lexus still way behind, I think Mercedes-Benz is in the forefront of this technology and this trend, in much the same way they led the automotive industry for many decades years ago. Lots of impressive thing about the EQS. I hope you enjoyed my walk around video. A lot more to come your way. For now, if you can give me a thumbs up, make some comments, and maybe subscribe, that would be appreciated. But until next video, I'm signing off. Thank you so much.